It was supposed to be our first trip in a long time, but I had to cancel because of some urgent work. I'll make it up to you later, I promise. Today was the day we had reserved to go to a luxury hotel as a couple's trip. Shaken by the call from Tom, I asked him why. But he was clearly acting strange and dodging the question. Thinking something must have happened, I immediately called our daughter Holly. So it's true then. All right, I'll handle it from here. Mom, just stay put at home. I'll get ready and head over soon. Okay, I'll be waiting. I've always felt something off about Tom's behavior. Tom, who had been strange since before he became the CEO in his early 30s. The distrust isn't easy to shake off, though it's natural for him to be at the company as its CEO. I called Tom again, urging him to come home soon. When Tom returned home in the morning, he apologized. What a foolish man. I thought to myself, then said, "Oh. Why don't you take a look behind you?" The moment Tom turned around and saw me and the person next to me, he went pale. My name is Juliana, a 45-year-old homemaker. Until 2 years ago, it was just my husband, our daughter, and me living together, but recently, Holly got married. Now that she's working, Holly and her husband live together, and it's just Tom and me at home. Thanks to Tom running a well-known company since his early 30s, we had no financial troubles when Holly was young. We used to go on trips often, just the three of us. Holly looked forward to these trips so much that she would make sure Tom made the reservations properly. Tom took care of all the payments for the hotel reservations. Even when I offered to pay, Tom insisted on doing it himself. We thanked each other and must have looked like a loving couple to anyone. I never forgot to be grateful, and I managed our finances well. But this story dates back to when Holly was a child. As Holly entered middle school, Tom's behavior began to change gradually. When I went to pick Holly up and returned home, Tom, who should have been there, was nowhere to be found. I tried calling him several times, but he never picked up. Sometimes, when he did come home, he would just play with his smartphone and fall asleep on the couch. And that's not all. He stopped contributing money to the household, which he had always done before. When Holly wanted to have a wedding ceremony, Tom dismissed it with a displeased look. When she mentioned wanting children, Tom negated it, assuming future hardships. We, as her parents, should have wanted to support her. But Tom wouldn't listen to Holly's opinions and just imposed his own, arms crossed. You're young, you and your husband should be able to cover it. What's with that attitude? That's so unfair to Holly. Just because they're young doesn't mean they can easily afford it. I stood up for Holly. But Tom just sneered with a snort, arms crossed. It's the truth, isn't it? She should be supporting us after all we've done to raise her. Not supporting her is just wrong, don't you think? My anger made no difference to Tom's opinion. Why all the negativity? The Tom I knew wouldn't have said such things. He used to be so supportive, even when Holly was born. When Holly was a baby, he said childcare should come before work. Maybe it was because many around us became stay-at-home moms, but Tom was kind not just to me but to Holly as well. Even with his busy job, he always came home to see Holly's sleeping face, finding solace in it. He prioritized love above all else, but what changed him? Just thinking about it gives me a headache, so I turned to exercising as a hobby for physical and mental relief. Tom's negativity shocked Holly. Speaking of the person in question, there were many times he hardly came home at all. During such a time, I got a call from Holly. Sorry, Mom. I don't want Dad to know, but I'm pregnant. I can't come home anymore, so I thought I'd tell you in advance. That's so, I'm relieved. I was afraid you had given up because of what your father said. Not at all. I've always said I wanted kids. I'll raise them right. Yeah, okay. Do your best, Holly. But don't overdo it, okay? Rely on others sometimes. Holly sounded happy as she replied, got it. I strongly felt that this was something I couldn't tell Tom. I thought it best to say nothing when he came back and just act as usual. Months passed since Tom stopped coming home. Then, I received a message from Holly with a photo attached. It was to announce the birth of her child. A cute child, looking just like Holly, appeared on the screen. How adorable. I'm so glad. Glad that mother and child are safe. As I was tearing up over these thoughts, Tom snatched my smartphone with a threatening tone. Having kids, huh? How can you say such horrible things? To your own daughter, no less. Isn't your grandchild precious to you? Give me back my phone. No way. I thought you and Holly were up to something, and it turns out I was right. Don't expect me to approve of her getting married now. Tom, who had just come back suddenly, began to deny Holly's personal life. I didn't understand why he was so stubborn, and I argued back. No parent doesn't support their own child. Maybe you should reconsider your position? And when exactly were you planning to work, being a homemaker all this time? I don't want to hear it from someone who hasn't lifted a finger even after her daughter became an adult. That stung. I was a homemaker because I was raising our child. I admit there's some truth to his point, but I still intend to stand by Holly. It's a fact that I couldn't stand Tom just complaining and then heading off to work without coming home properly. Being in my 40s, finding a job wasn't going to be easy. After discussing with Holly, I learned that upskilling is a trend in the job market these days. So, I decided to upgrade my skills to get a job. With the help of online courses, I finally acquired some skills. With Holly's support, I managed to start working from home after a long time. Tom made a strange face when he saw me working as usual. He seemed shocked, thinking I was still just a homemaker. I had never seen that expression on him before, and I couldn't help but laugh. This is good, right? Yeah, I guess. I never thought you'd actually work, so I'm surprised. Despite his criticism of not working, he still looked down on me. Why can he only speak in such a demeaning way? Just as I was about to retort, Tom made a suggestion. If you're working now, that means we can afford to stay at a luxury hotel. What is he talking about now? A luxury hotel, the one we talked about going to when we were newlyweds and hadn't been married long? Back then, traveling was my hobby. I had stayed in all the local hotels and wanted to go somewhere new. That's when we found out Holly was on the way, and I said I wanted to prioritize parenting. Since prioritizing parenting, the three of us never went together. My routine was housework, Tom was the CEO of a well-known company, and Holly went to school. I had forgotten for a while, but I finally remembered. Truth be told, I still want to go on a trip. I wanted a couple's trip at some point, so I'm honestly very happy. But seeing Tom's attitude now, I wonder if it's okay to go together. I had thought we could enjoy some good times as a couple, but even now, things are awkward. I decided to try making a suggestion to Tom. Just in case he had any objections, I wanted to leave the decision up to him. Want to go together? Don't you think it'd be nice for us to have some time together as a couple after so long? But what about the money? I can't prepare it right away, you know. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Right, Tom is the CEO of a well-known company. I was so caught up in how poorly Tom was treating Holly, but he remembered the time we went on our honeymoon. Feeling excited inside, I decided to start preparing a week before the reservation date. It seemed like money wouldn't be a concern, but just in case, I decided to bring the money I earned from working from home. Then, on the day we were supposed to go to the luxury hotel, Tom called to say he suddenly had to work. It was supposed to be our first trip in a long time, but I have to cancel because of some urgent work. I'll make it up to you later, I promise. I was looking forward to it, but then Tom canceled on the day of the reservation. As I roughly pulled clothes out of the neatly packed carry-on bag, tears of frustration overflowed. Does he think he can just blame everything on work? Asking Tom for a reason only leads to him dodging the question, never consulting with me. I was looking forward to it, really, I don't understand that man. I muttered to myself and then cried out loud. After a while, I managed to compose myself. It's all right. I want more than just a marriage in name, I want a real relationship. I'll stop expecting us to be a cooperative couple. I called Holly's phone. Then, I heard Ken's voice over the phone. Holly and Ken were talking about something, but I couldn't make out the details. However, it seemed like Holly was panicking, and Ken was trying to keep calm, almost like they were arguing. It must be about that issue. It seemed like the result of a request I had made to Holly, and Ken was ready. And they said they needed to come over to our house urgently, as it required both Tom and me to be present. Before Holly and Ken arrived, I tried calling Tom's phone. As expected, it went straight to voicemail. Hearing the familiar voicemail message made me even more irritated. After calling several times, I finally got through to Tom. Today is Sunday. He left the house early in the morning and hadn't returned by the evening. Common reasons for divorce include debts or affairs. Despite a bad feeling, I questioned Tom. Today, Holly is coming over. Please come home soon. There's something important I need to talk to you about. Important talk? Wait, didn't I tell you I had urgent work and had to cancel the trip to the luxury hotel? Tom laughed as if he had the upper hand. It's hard to believe that a company with weekends off would work on Sunday. Especially when it's known as a good company. Implying good work-life balance. But listening to Tom's explanation, you'd think the company wasn't so good after all. I decided to share the information Ken had dug up about Tom. I've heard, but that's not the point. I was wondering if maybe you've gotten into debt. Debt? What are you basing that on? I don't understand. From your reaction, it seems true. If you don't come back, I'll throw away all your stuff. That's my offer. His voice was trembling. But after hearing what Holly and Ken had found, I didn't want to believe it. Yet, Tom's actions and the word debt seemed to connect correctly. It's natural for a wife to not want to believe such things. Don't throw away my stuff, please. No. If you don't face this, I'm considering divorce. Wait, okay. I'll apologize, just give me some time. I won't accept just an apology, show me through your actions. I'll be waiting at home. I hung up the phone, feeling my body shaking. It's always painful to be on the receiving end of unpleasant words, to always be the one to tolerate. Exhausted, I sat down at the entrance. Tom's company is supposed to have weekends off. And being the CEO, there shouldn't be any financial issues. Perhaps something was wrong between us as a couple. Even with these feelings, it wasn't my choice to live like this with Tom. As I was thinking this, Holly arrived. Seeing me sitting at the entrance, Holly looked worriedly at me. Mom, are you okay? Ken is here too. He's smarter than me, so when Dad arrives, let's get everything out in the open. Yeah. Sorry for showing you such a pathetic sight. Don't worry about it, it's okay. Plus, today, I was really hoping to eat your cooking, Mom. Do you think you're up for it? Can I help? Holly was considerate, offering to take over household chores for me. Becoming a mother, Holly. Oh, how desperately I lived as a mother. There were times I was so focused I couldn't see anything else, but I understand it was all to protect my child. For now, we prioritized cooking dinner together. I figured Tom would come back late at night or in the morning. While preparing dinner with Holly, I realized Ken hadn't shown up at all. Where's Ken? Ken said he'd wait outside because of Dad's issue. Plus, he didn't want to leave the kids alone, so he dropped them off at his parents' and then he's waiting in the car. Right, it's dangerous to leave a child alone. Yeah. Plus, we don't want to expose them to our parents' arguments, right? Ken and I want to live in peace. I was struck by her words, and Holly gave me a reassuring smile. Parents' arguments. Holly must have endured her share too. It made me feel complicated. Then, a notification popped up on my phone. It was a message from Tom, saying he'd be back tomorrow morning. I'll let Ken know. We should get ready too. Me too. But how about we all have a light meal first? Good idea. Until Tom arrived, Holly, Ken, and I gathered to eat together. Ken apologized for being late in greeting us. He was so considerate, it warmed my heart. Seeing the dishes on the table, Ken looked surprised. When I asked why, he laughed joyfully, saying my cooking was too gourmet for him. And to think, a husband who doesn't eat these delicious meals every day, that's kind of sad, isn't it? I'm used to it, I guess. As long as Holly and you visit occasionally, that's enough for me. That's good to hear. I feel ready to face your husband head on. We've turned a blind eye to things. Thanks in advance for tomorrow morning, both of you, I said, and Holly and Ken replied in unison, yes. They looked at each other and burst into laughter. It's nice, their closeness. Honestly, I'm so envious of their relationship, it's almost jealousy. But the main issue is Tom's true intentions. The fact that the word debt shook him proves my intuition was right. And the information Holly and Ken gathered was accurate. That fact alone stuck in my mind, making me sad. After dinner and cleaning up, we held a strategy meeting for the next morning. To make sure everything went smoothly. To ensure Tom couldn't make excuses. I hated that Tom always wanted to appear as the good guy while staying safe himself. After the meeting, we decided to sleep in the same room. Waking up, I saw a message from Tom saying he'd be home soon. I shared the news with Holly and Ken, and we took our places as planned. I knew this wouldn't be the end, but the effort we put in was real. I have no regrets about ending our marital relationship. Yet, I couldn't help thinking if there was something more I could have done. If I had acted sooner, maybe we wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble. I would have blamed myself if not for Holly and Ken's comforting presence. I felt pathetic as both a parent and an individual. As I was lost in thought, Tom barged in. He immediately apologized loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. I'm sorry, Juliana. I'll book a luxury hotel again, let's go together. It must have been his way of thinking. Unfortunately, it didn't resonate with me at all. Noticing the silence, he looked up, calling my name while searching the house. But I wasn't there. I was in the car with Holly and Ken. Now's the time, Mom. Right, let's do this. Go for it, Mom. Encouraged by Holly, I stepped out of the car. As Tom was about to re-enter the house, I called out, "Hey, wait." He turned around in shock, making a strange noise. I took a deep breath before speaking. Tom, we need to talk. Talk? We can reschedule the trip some other time, can't we? Okay. Then, why don't you take a look behind you? Behind? As he turned, Tom saw Holly and Ken standing behind me. But his reaction to seeing Ken was one of fear. You are? Long time no see. I'm married to Holly. You knew that, right? I'm aware of it. Where did all that momentum go just now? Ken, with a smile on his face, bowed and reached out for a handshake with Tom. But Tom, shaking off his hand, yelled with a face like a demon. What happened to my request? You said the results would be quick, but there's been no word at all. Oh, was that so? You seemed quite happy plotting your get-rich-quick schemes behind the scenes from dawn till dusk. What's that supposed to mean? I haven't heard anything about it. Of course, we've got evidence. Your mother was worried about you, but as Holly said, you're just a man after a quick fortune. And then, Ken, having somehow seized them earlier, pulled out several credit cards. Due to Tom's get-rich-quick schemes, the borrowed amount was so high that it was beyond repayment. Let's end this. I can't see you fixing this. You should apologize to your mother first, like a man would. Tom muttered something under his breath with a face like the end of the world, but eventually, he slowly bowed his head. In a barely audible voice, Tom said, I'm sorry. Thanks to Ken's efforts, a brilliant lawyer, Tom's debts came to light. I conveyed to Ken that living together any longer would be meaningless. Ken smiled and said, exactly, and proceeded with the paperwork. The detail was about reducing the debt on Tom's cards. However, I decided not to cooperate because I believe in taking responsibility, so I communicated that direction. Is divorce the right way to go? Yes, please. Understood. I will discuss it with Tom again after reviewing the divorce papers. May I act as your representative? Yes, thank you. Thank you as well. Having given permission for him to act as a representative, Ken also mentioned he would get consent from the person involved later. Meanwhile, Tom was doing a cleaning job. It seems Tom says the consequences of freely spending money as a CEO have caught up to him. Self-inflicted, yet he dares to complain. We decided to file for divorce after our final discussion. Until the very end, Tom kept whining, "I don't want to separate. Stop your futile resistance. I believe it's utterly wrong to ever cause trouble for others again. And instead of hiding and being exposed later, it's better to speak up when necessary. Money, while convenient, can also bring one's life crashing down." Afterward, Tom and I divorced. I started living alone, something I had always wanted, but it felt lonely after always living with someone. When Holly heard about it, she suggested living together. When I asked if she was sure, Holly gladly agreed. Greeted by Holly and Ken. And their little girl, born in the meantime. Her tiny hands grasped my fingers tightly. Pure, tearful eyes looked up at me, making me feel truly grateful. Seeing this, Holly and Ken smiled happily. "Mom, it's a surprise." "A surprise?" "Yes, feel my belly?" I felt a slight movement in Holly's belly. Looking up, I asked Holly, "A second one?" "Yes. It seems I was already pregnant when we started exposing Dad's debts." "That's great. I'm so happy to have the chance to care for a child again." "Yes. We're counting on you for a while, Mom." "Leave it to me." Holly stood smiling beside me. And Ken wanted to get in on the action, saying, "Of course, I'll help out too." It was rare for him to show defiance, and Holly laughed as if it was amusing. Ken is serious about work and now preparing for the second child with Holly. I can't be outdone by the young couple, so I decided to start yoga. As you age, maintaining physical strength becomes necessary. If I'm going to help raise my granddaughter, I need to be fit. Living day by day, especially being careful with money, we plan to live happily and support each other.